What if there was an animal that almost never got cancer, even when scientists tried to give it cancer in a lab? What if that same animal could be sealed in a chamber with no oxygen for 18 minutes and walk out totally fine? What if it lived 10 times longer than other rodents its size, and its risk of dying somehow didn't go up as it got older? You'd assume something like that lived in the deep ocean or some hidden corner of the Amazon. Actually, it lives in shallow tunnels in East Africa, looks like a sock with teeth, and weighs about as much as a hamster. The animal is the naked mole rat. It is a wrinkled, hairless, buck-toothed rodent that spends its entire life underground in colonies of up to 300 individuals, ruled by a single breeding queen the way a beehive is. From the outside, it is one of the ugliest mammals you can pull up on a search engine. From the inside, it is one of the most rule-breaking animals biologists have ever sequenced. To see why, you have to take the 4 big claims one at a time, because each of them on its own would be strange. Stacked together, they describe an animal that has quietly opted out of large parts of mammalian biology. Start with the cancer. In 2013, Vera Gorbunova and Andrei Seluanov at the University of Rochester published a paper in Nature on something they had been chasing for years. Captive colonies of naked mole rats almost never develop tumors. They had searched for them on autopsy, looked for them with imaging, and kept finding healthy tissue in animals that, by rodent standards, were ancient. Mice get tumors at extraordinary rates. Rats get them. Naked mole rats almost never do. And when researchers tried to force the issue by transplanting cancer cells into them, the cells failed to take hold. The reason turned out to be sitting in the spaces between the cells. Naked mole rat tissue is packed with an unusually large form of a sugar polymer called hyaluronan, which most mammals make in shorter, lower molecular weight versions. The naked mole rat version is roughly 5 times longer than the human version. According to the Rochester team, this high molecular weight hyaluronan fills the gaps between cells with a thick, gel-like environment that crowds tumor cells before they can multiply. Cancer cells in most animals thrive on dense crowding. Naked mole rat cells get triggered by the same signal in reverse. When their cellular environment becomes too crowded, they shut growth down entirely. Tumors do not get the chance to form. That was the first major rule they broke. The next one was about oxygen. Most mammals die fairly quickly without it. Your brain runs out of energy in minutes, neurons start dying, and the damage cascades from there. A rat will die in under a minute in a chamber with no oxygen. According to a 2017 paper in Science by Park and colleagues, a naked mole rat in the same chamber survives for 18 minutes and walks out the other side without measurable injury. The trick is a sugar swap. Most mammalian cells run on glucose, and when glucose metabolism fails for lack of oxygen, the cell starves and dies. The naked mole rat, when oxygen drops, switches its cells over to fructose instead. Fructose can be metabolized through a pathway that does not require oxygen, the same kind of pathway plants and some yeasts use in low oxygen conditions. The animal carries a backup fuel system that other mammals lost or never developed. When the air goes bad in the tunnel, the colony does not suffocate. The metabolism reroutes, the animals stay alive, and when the oxygen comes back, the system flips back to normal. The third rule is the one that gets evolutionary biologists genuinely confused. It is about aging. Almost every mammal that has ever been studied follows a curve called the Gompertz law. The math is grim but consistent. Your risk of dying doubles roughly every 8 years once you hit adulthood. A mouse follows the same curve on a faster clock. So does a rat, a dog, an elephant. Older animals die at higher rates than younger animals of the same species. It is one of the most reliable patterns in biology. According to a 2018 paper in eLife by Ruby Smith and Buffenstein, naked mole rats do not follow that curve. The team tracked thousands of animals across decades of captive colony data, and the risk of death stayed flat across age. A 6-year-old naked mole rat was no more likely to die in a given month than a 1-year-old. A 20-year-old was no more likely to die than a 6-year-old. The hazard curve in their data was a horizontal line. The animal aged in calendar terms without aging in mortality terms. Some animals in the colonies have now been recorded past 30 years, which is more than 10 times the maximum lifespan of a mouse of similar size. Rochelle Buffenstein, one of the authors, has spent her career on these animals and is now at Calico Labs, the long-running aging research lab funded by Alphabet. The paper landed in the middle of a field that mostly assumed Gompertz was a law in the physics sense, something you would find in every mammal once you looked carefully enough. The naked mole rat data did not just bend the curve. It removed it. If you are enjoying this little rodent as much as I am, hit subscribe. More stories like this on the channel every week. The fourth rule is about pain. A 2008 paper in PLOS Biology by Park and colleagues looked at how naked mole rats respond to two things that hurt almost every other mammal. The first was acid, the kind of mild acid that makes a paper cut sting. The second was capsaicin, the burning compound in chili peppers. In every standard rodent, both compounds trigger a sharp pain response. In the naked mole rat, they triggered almost nothing. The animal walked around as if the chemicals were tap water. The reason traces to a missing piece of nervous system wiring. Naked mole rats lack functional substance P in the part of the nerve fibers that normally signals inflammatory pain. Substance P is one of the chemical messengers that tells the brain a chemical irritant is present. Without it, the signal does not get sent. Researchers were eventually able to restore the pain response by adding substance P back to the relevant nerves, which confirmed that the missing molecule was the cause. The animal is not numb. Mechanical pain, the kind you would feel from a pinch, still works. Inflammatory chemical pain, the burning kind, has been edited out. That sounds like a quirk on its own. Stacked with the other three rules, it starts to look like a pattern. Pull all four together. An animal that resists cancer through a tissue-crowding sugar polymer. An animal that survives without oxygen by burning fructose like a plant. An animal that does not show the standard increase in death rate with age. An animal that has dropped the inflammatory pain response to chemicals like acid. The list reads like a wish list at a longevity conference. The naked mole rat is not on that list because someone engineered it that way. It is on the list because of where it lives. A naked mole rat colony lives 20 to 40 centimeters underground in shallow burrows that snake across dry East African soil. The air down there is bad. Carbon dioxide levels can climb to 10% and oxygen levels can drop sharply during the hot part of the day, especially when several hundred animals are packed into a chamber together. The soil itself contains plant matter that breaks down into acids. The colonies do not migrate. Once the tunnel system is dug, the animals are stuck with whatever atmosphere builds up inside it. Over millions of years of that environment, ordinary mammalian responses become liabilities. A pain reflex to acidic air would mean a colony in constant agony every afternoon. A normal oxygen requirement would mean a colony that suffocates whenever the burrow gets crowded. A normal cancer rate would mean queens who breed for decades, dying too young to keep the colony stable. A normal aging curve would mean a system that loses its breeders on the schedule other rodents do, which the colony cannot afford. Each rule that other mammals follow, the underground colony rewards breaking. The eusocial structure may be part of the same story. Naked mole rats live more like termites than like other rodents. One queen breeds. The rest of the colony, hundreds of workers, do not. That setup pushes selection in directions most mammals do not experience. The queen is the only one passing genes forward, so the colony will invest heavily in keeping her alive and functional, sometimes for 30 years. Long-lived queens favor long-lived underlying biology. Long-lived underlying biology favors the kind of cellular machinery that resists cancer, tolerates low oxygen, ignores acid pain, and does not slide down a Gompertz curve. None of this means the naked mole rat is invincible. Predators get into burrows, infections happen, and rival colonies fight underground in skirmishes that researchers find evidence of in scarred skin. Captive animals occasionally develop tumors after all, just at vanishingly low rates compared to mice. The 4 big rules are not absolute. They are statistical departures from the mammalian baseline that, taken together, mark this rodent as one of the strangest animals in the lab. What the naked mole rat really represents is a different answer to questions that every mammal has to solve. How do you handle cancer? How do you handle running out of air? How do you handle getting old? How do you handle a chemically nasty environment? Most mammals solve those problems one way. The naked mole rat, sealed underground for tens of millions of years, solved them another way. And the answers it landed on are now sitting in labs at Rochester, Calico, and a dozen other institutions, being read very carefully by humans who would also like to spend less time getting cancer, running out of oxygen, and dying on schedule. If you found this fun, there are more stories like this on the channel. See you in the next video.